What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to my channel, Alchemist. Justin here, and bringing another little nugget to add to the Soul Tribe archive. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about Mercury in Aquarius in the 11th house. And this is actually, I think, a really cool one for Mercury to be in, a very social one. Now, when you talk about Mercury, we're doing half the work. Mercury deals with communication. It is the bestower of critical thinking. Mercury is, it's just where it's how we interpret the divine. The Mercury is always within 20 degrees of the sun, so it's really connected with source, and it's how we articulate that. So there's a divine aspect, a prophetic energy around Mercury. There is Mercury can deal with like brotherhood, with youth, with play, and just with just like practical application, understanding, commerce, things along those lines. Just number of things and numerous things that Mercury deals with. But those are going to be kind of the primary things, especially that sort of like communication, writing, things along those lines, oratory. That's going to fall into the category of Mercury. Now, when we're talking about Aquarius, Aquarius is traditionally ruled by Saturn, and they are the fixed air sign, and they are active or yang in nature. And when I think about Aquarius, they are the great vision. I think that with that Saturnian influence, it gives Aquarius the ability to give thoughts and hold them with that fixed air energy, to keep the idea and to be able to really be able to see things maybe a lot further out than other people can even visualize it. I find that Aquarius is that really wide perspective, and when it's thinking about the future. And I find with Aquarius, they're one, if you can hold it in your head, you can hold it in your hand. That's where I think the kind of power that Saturn brings with that, as far, and even to that ability for connection, because it's this. The dreams that we have requires other people to support that. We all need one another. And so, Saturn, there's a strong connective energy, especially when you consider that Saturn's exalted in the air sign of Libra. So, Aquarius can be very good for associating with different groups and running with different walks of life and a real kind of diversity. I like to think of them kind of as like the stars connecting, creating constellations with Aquarius. And then you think about the 11th house, and this is a great energy for that, because the 11th house is the house of good spirits, so we love that. And it is one of the succeeded houses. And this deals with themes of like friends, groups, alliances, hopes, dreams, and yeah, just overall just kind of just like good luck. It's a really nice house. And so when you're working with this house, a few things to consider. One, you would have an Aries rising by whole sign, and you're going to want to look to Saturn, because Saturn's going to be responsible for this house and for your 10th house, which deals with like your reputation, your achievements, ranks, superiors, and any sort of like mastery of skills and things like that. And then Mercury is going to be responsible for your 3rd house, which is going to import the 3rd house and the 6th house themes. And the 3rd house deals with like siblings, learning, short-term travels, communication, writing. And the 6th house deals with like illness, injuries, work or subordinates, small pets. So one thing that I would kind of jump into, as far as when I would kind of pick this person's brain, is see what sort of social circles, what does the friends, because that's one thing that the 11th house and the 3rd house has in common. Friends is a really important thing, that the theme that runs in with those houses there. So what does that friend group look like? How who are the people that you run with? Are they ones that have not just ones that support your dreams, but have their own dreams as well, so that everyone, when you win, they win, and vice versa? Do you have people like that? Or do those 6th house themes come in there? Because sometimes that can deal with like troubles, misfortune. Do they bring down the vibe? So that's going to be something you really want to kind of pay attention to, because that's going to be where Mercury learns how to communicate, because based off what did they say? You are a great representation of the like what 5 most people that hang around you, or something like that. So just kind of tune in and just see how those conversations are going. And you may need to be a part of multiple groups. That might be something to consider there. But one other thing that I would think about with this too, maybe there was a sibling, that maybe happens to stay in good relationships with your siblings, or maybe you got some family members who are well connected. Maybe they can help you get maybe if you happen to look for work somewhere, or maybe you happen to, if you want to manage people. But this would be something too where I would just even say, even like if this was like a child's chart, but child, adult, being involved in some, some sort of group, whether it be, maybe it could be in like a sports league, for example. That would be a great way, not just to learn competition, but to learn that ability of teamwork. What it means for a group of people to come together for a common cause, to to win, to be recognized, to be honored, to achieve that achievement, that status, that expertise. But I think that this too not only just teaches you how to work in a team, but it can teach you with an Aries rising. This can teach you how to manage a team, how to work with the different personalities, how to move in the groups, how to get them through when there are crises, when there are things to deal with. You want someone who's able to respond under pressure, to be able to move, to be able, hey, I need you here. Someone who can recognize other people's strengths. That's what I think this Mercury could be. Really kind of recognize who you, and not in like a calculated way. It's slightly calculated, because it's just like, yeah, look at this person, they're doing it, I want that in my life. This person too, I love that they do this in here, I want that in my life. And then think about what you're bringing to that as well. But this could be someone where maybe doing something around in your community, possibly. That might be something really cool there. Maybe you do some kind of work around there. This could easily be some sort of like, maybe, what am I thinking, like civil servant sort of thing, something in an oratory sort of position there. So, and that's something too, whatever it is that you want to do, whatever it is that your hopes, dreams, aspirations, find a way to make that your day to day. Find a way to make it if you're if it's, whether it's working for someone or if it's creating your own type of business, but let it be something that challenges you. Let it be something that you do need to stay up to date with things, where you need to learn, where it's keeping your mind active, mind fresh. Because, sure, you could probably, I think it would be, sure, it can be easy for a placement like this to just kind of turn on the autopilot, do the things, but imagine, what that sort of vision and things could look like when you with Saturn, kind of push that, really kind of, bring that little bit of discipline in there and see where that goes. I think that this could, really do some really spectacular things there, and be a beacon for other people to, to follow. You could really be this. It could maybe become even like this sort of like inspiration. But I think that it's going to start with having to be around, who inspires you. Do the people around you bring that sense of wonder each day, of like, oh my gosh, look at what they're doing with their life. Like, if that's what they can do, what does it look like for me? It's not necessarily like a comparison. So, and that's something I would kind of look out for. Because the sixth house can deal with enemies. So it's not like you're not going to come across people who are trying to compete, or whatever the hell that looks like. But let them do what they got to do. Like that. Not going to be a person that rolls in your clique. That's fine. But it's just like, just know that that's alliances, and alliances come and go. And I think that's going to be something that plays on a kind of a prevalent theme in life. So where I like that kind of fixed air in Mercury, I do, sometimes it's, things change, and it has to be able to rationalize that and move forward. So, but those would be just a few things. Maybe find yourself, those would be just some basic things that I would kind of talk about someone with this placement. They just kind of play around in that space. You definitely need the whole chart to get an idea of how these placements look like. So if you have this placement, or know someone who's working with this placement, please, down in the description box. I would love let's be friends. Let's chit chat. Let's talk about how this is hopefully manifested. And of course, I'm just going based off this because Mercury is well placed there in the 11th house in Aquarius. Yeah, it's Saturn's house, so if it's a day or night chart, that might make it a little bit more questionable. So there are other variables that really factor into that as well. If there are receptions involved, things like that. But just in a general place, this isn't a bad place for Mercury. Mercury can do some good work here. So, but yeah, and if that's something where you want to do some good work with Mercury, you want to explore your natal chart more, or see what kind of transits maybe you're in. Maybe Mercury is your Time Lord of the year. It is for me, and actually a couple of people that roll in my clique. So, you be in good company. But Yeah, or you want to pick any sort of like elections for the year, and any sort of auspicious dates for anything that you have planned, then down in the description box there's my email down there to get in touch with me about any of the services that I provide. I ran into a little bit of a hiccup, so I'm getting ready to. I'll be posting things here hopefully by next week. Having the link there where you can just straight click on the link and schedule a consultation with me. So that'll be available for you here shortly. But until then. And last couple things there. Also in the description box, there's a couple of links for some playlists. One is the Celestial News Weekly, which talks about the sun and where the rest of the visible planets are at, what aspects they're forming with each other, and what placements are going to be most impacted, and how to work with those energies as practically as possible. And also, too, there's one Lunar Shenanigans, and that deals with the moon astrology, and it just goes over what sign the moon's in, what phase it's in, when it happens to go void course, and when the aspects kind of reach their peak, and how that energy may be feeling that day for us, since we're so closely tied into the moon there. So that's down there for you as well. But until next time, stay mindful out there, keep raising that vibration through the roof, and I will catch you on the next one later.